remember when Fauci finally told people it was 70% that we had to reach for this epidemic to end and herd immunity to take effect. People believed in herd immunity, and Tony had purported that at 50% we'd have herd immunity, which meant the pandemic would stop. And then shortly thereafter revised it and said 70%. And a reporter said to Dr. Fauci, said, recently you said 50%, but now you're saying 70%. Can you tell us the new data that you have that made you revise your opinion from 50% to 70%? And, always used to tell Tony the simplest answer to the American public was to tell them the truth. And if you don't know the answer, tell them I don't know the answer. Well, Tony turned to the reporter and said, there is no new data. But when I told you 50%, I told you that because I didn't think you were ready to hear 70%. Same thing when CDC stopped tracking patients that were vaccinated, they got infected. Because if patients got infected that were already vaccinated, some people thought that negated the value of the vaccine. So rather than just tell people, some people get infected when they're vaccinated because the vaccine doesn't protect against infection. What CDC did was stop tracking the number of people that were vaccinated that got infected. So there was a big push to make vaccines look as they were the answer. The same problem came if you brought up the idea of vaccine injury or vaccine side effects. Those things were not really discussed. And then that, of course, led to the view that we were going to mandate vaccines for all kids in school and kids in college, mandate vaccines if you want to go on an airplane, mandate vaccines for health workers, mandate vaccines for the military. This was a big mistake. And if the COVID vaccine really did block infection 100%, we could have an argument about whether one would consider mandating the vaccine. But I think the answer is to give the American public the information and let them make the best decision for their own health, rather than for Big Brother to tell them what decision they should make. And this is where we lost a lot of credibility.